Okay, Dad, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's start off with this is an interview with Nino Quiroz and Al Quiroz on March 8th, 2026. So, Dad, just for the record, tell me your name and spell your first and last name for me.
My name is Alfonso Quiroz. Alfonso. My last name is Quiroz.
Now, what was the date of your birth and where generally were you born at?
My birthday is August 2nd, 1936. And I was born on Langley Ave, 11311 Langley Ave on the third floor.
Okay, so can you just sort of describe to people about how you first got a job at Pullman Standard? And I believe it was when you were at the market hall and one of the union reps
Yeah.
approached you. Can you just sort of talk us through about how that happened and what they said to you and how you started to work for Pullman?
Okay. I was at the market hall, hanging around the market hall, 23 years old, without a job, no knowledge of the trade or anything like that. So there was, at the banquet hall, at the market hall, there was a union meeting there. And after the union meeting, the president of the union came out and he told my brother and I, "You guys want a job?" And I says, "Well, I don't know, you know." And he says, "Well, if we work at Pullman, working on railroad cars, you work 6 months out of the year, and then you get laid off, and then you collect unemployment and benefits from the company." So I said, "Well, okay." So I went over 111th and Cottage Grove at the north end of the wing of the administration building. That's where the employment office was. So I talked to manager Joe Miller. He was the manager at employment office. And I fill out the application and everything like that. And he says, "Okay, he told me a certain day to come in and start working." And he gave me a list of tools, what kind of tools they buy. So I went to Sears and bought the tools at the Sears company. So I started one day, I forget what day it was. I started one day, and first of all, there was guys, the instructors. They says, "Okay, you and Ray, you're going to learn how to put heater grills on." So in the cars, they're all shell cars. And he told me how to put the clips on for the heater grills. So we worked on that, working with tools and everything like that. And I had to go to the tool room and check out, they check out some tools, some drills and things like that. So we went back to the car and we started working, putting the heater grills up. And my supervisor says, "Well, okay, you're going to have to learn another part of the car." So my supervisor says, "Okay, you're going to work on the luggage racks." So I worked on the luggage racks and got real good at working with tools. So after that, he was a supervisor of putting doors in. So he says, "Well, next week you start working on the doors." So after about 2 weeks of working, I started working on doors, on installing doors. And from that point on, I got real training on the hanging the doors, the pocket doors, the swinging doors, the big doors. And they said that, "Okay, you're doing fine. You know, just keep it up." So he says, "Now I want you to put together a door in 8 hours. So I worked on the doors, and after 8 hours, I started working there and weather stripping and everything like that, working with the doors, sliding in and out and all that. And he said, fine. He said that you're doing good. So anyways, everybody who worked in the cars, they had trade names, like guys that put in seats to the cars. They call like the seat man Joe, you know, and then they called me Al the doorman, and they talked about a window guy, and they says, okay, Tom the window guy, you know, and we all had names like that, and we worked good, and we after a while on the Chicago Northwestern railroad car contract. And we worked good, you know, we did real nice, and we had 2 boxes and everything like that. And then after about 2 months later, 3 months later, I got familiarized with working on different parts of the car. Now, before the cars was built, the manager of the employment manager says, well, you guys want to continue working, you sign a contract saying that I'll take any job that's available in the company after a layoff. So every time they get a new contract, they start off in fabrication, raw steel and everything like that. And I worked on a press, I worked on a punch press and different things like that. And when I was working on the press, I was transferred over to a different department. So there's this one guy, this one kid, he worked on the same press that I worked on, and he put his hand on the press and cut off his finger. I remember him going to the supervisor walking over to the first aid department, and he got treated there and he went to the hospital. But anyways, working with all the guys, you got familiar with their names, and you got familiar with parts of the car and everything like that. Now, when the car was being built, one time, or when your operation is finished, and then you bounce over to another operation, working with panels on the walls of the car, windows, helping with the windows and things like that. And it was really nice, really experienced, you know. And I had no trade at all. And then when the contract was finished, then it was laid us off for about 2 weeks, a month. And then they called us back, and they, like I say, they started to work with fabrication, and I worked on big machines, because we signed a contract saying we're available for any kind of job that's open. And then when the car is completed, or the fabrication is completed, and they were transferred to a different department, the fitters department, and we started putting the cars together, the walls, the seats, the roofs, and everything like that. And then when that's completed, and then my supervisor says, okay, you're going to be transferred to a different department, joiner's department. You've done all the interior work on that. And like I say, I'm really interested and really liked it, and I got along with my supervisor, and they taught me how to work with drills, machinery, and things like that. And I really enjoyed it, and I said, well, you know, all this stuff I learned from working with these old timers, you know. So anyways, when we got laid off,
Can you hear me?
We got laid off, and then we were transferred to a different department that's opening up, like fabrication and all that.
Now, you said that you started in 1959. Is that right?
Yes, I started in 1959.
Now, you had said that you had to go and buy your own tools, but then you also said that there was a process where you would go and get tools at the shop. So I'm
Yes.
not understanding the difference of why they would
Well,
expect you to have your. I'm not sure why they would expect you to have your own tools. What tools did you have to buy, and then what tools did they have for you to use there?
well, they gave me a list, and they says, okay, first of all, you got to get a Yankee screwdriver, and then you got to buy a hammer, a ruler, and awl, and they call it an awl, and it's like an ice pick, and then different other things that the list that I had to get, and then that was my personal tools, and then as far as the machinery or the drills and everything like that, the drill bits and all that, I had to go to the tool crib. Now, when I first got hired, everybody that I hired, they give them a tool checks, 20 tool checks, and you're supposed to turn in a check when you take out a tool, because they don't want you to take it home or anything like that. And then when you were laid off, and then you return the tools, and you got your tool check back. So it's like a guarantee that the machinery returned to the tool room.
So they had you buy some tools on your own, but then they also gave you other tools that you can use for your own work.
Right, that's right. It was like automatic screwdriver and air compressor chisels, and they give you extension cords, and they give you air hoses for different tools that are operated by air.
Now you mentioned that there one of the first jobs that you had was putting up heating grills. For somebody that doesn't know what a heating grill is or where it goes into a car, how would you describe that?
The heating grills were on the lower end of the car, at the lower inside the car, but the lower end, above the seats, before the seats are installed. So I went down and you had to do the whole car in a day or something like that. And then that's where I learned how to work with drills and everything like that. And I didn't have no trade at all.
What's the difference? You also said that you learned how to put a luggage rack in. What is the luggage rack, and what is it used for? And how did you install something like that?
Well, then I was transferred to a different operation to put in a luggage rack. There were aluminum luggage racks in the aisle of the car, and I had to work on a wooden horse and install a luggage rack. They go to every post of the car, so when the people come in, they got luggage, they could put their luggage there.
Now, you also talked about that, you installed pocket doors. For somebody that doesn't know what a pocket door on a train car is, what exactly is a pocket door, and how do you install something like that?
The pocket doors, they showed me how to install a pocket door. The pocket door will go in between the walls at the end of the car, going in and out of the car. And then there was the pocket doors. I had to fix the door up. I had to file some of the rough spots of the carbon doors, the doors, because they slid on tracks. And so I learned how to install them. It worked them real good, and then I had to hook them up to like a door closer. So when you open up the door, it closes by itself. So I did that for about 4 or 5 months, 6 months or so. And that's why I got the title of Indoor L. So
yeah, you mentioned the nickname. Did you like having a nickname? Did that show that you got along with other workers?
Yeah, they didn't know my first name. They didn't know. They just said L, Indoor L, and then I had I painted on my work shirt or my jacket end door L. So whenever they needed a guy to put the end door down, and then the doors I put on the big doors on the side of the car, the entrance of the car. And I installed all the doors, the locket doors, the cabinet doors, and things like that, because I was good at doing that job.
Now you mentioned that there is that you were working on a punch press. What is a punch press, and what is it used for, or what does it create?
The punch press. When we first started fabrication, they would show me how to operate the big punch press. Now there was a setup man who would set up all the punches down the line, maybe about 8 feet long or 6 feet, and they showed me the different material, flat material, and you got to punch all these holes. So they showed me how to put the piece into the die and press down and then punch the holes all at one time. So
was that for like the exterior of the car?
That's for the exterior of the car. It was for different buttons of the car or parts of the car, interior car.
Got it. Okay. And you also mentioned that about a joiner's department. For people that don't know what a joiner is or what that department does, how would you explain that?
Well, my final department was a joiner department. A joiner is when they complete the car. They put the finishing of the car, like they put in the seats and they install the windows, the luggage racks, or any kind of the handles of the cars and things like that. And then when there was any problem with the piece that you put up, it would be on a shipping track. And in order for the railroad to buy the car, they had to have it operating real good, perfect. So when they have trouble, they would call me and I'd go rush down to the shipping track and I repaired or fixed the problem that was there. Maybe a sticking door, or maybe the weather stripping, or something like that. Or maybe when they got a hose and we sprayed onto the door from the outside, and to make sure that there was no leaks in the doors.
Now, one of the things that people were interested of what it was like for a Pullman worker, to what was it like every day for a Pullman worker, for you? So, like, when you first started at the Pullman company, like, what time did you have to check in? And did you have, like, a time card, or was there a process where you would put in your hours? Can you tell me a little bit about, like, what you had for lunch, or where
we had to walk.
you
We had to walk about a mile from 111th Street to 107th Street in the factory grounds. And we had to go through the guard shack in order to get in. We had to show our badge to show that we work at Pullman Standard and I was an employee there. And then I would walk to the time clock. And it was about 6:45 in the morning. And I usually get there early so I could set up my toolbox and things like that. So they were from 7 to 12 o'clock. No, 7 to 9 o'clock. We had a 10-minute break. And then we would drink some coffee, maybe a sandwich or something like that. And then the whistle would blow to get back to work. So we get back to work and continue our operation on the car.
Now, did you have like a place to put your stuff, your personal stuff, like a locker or anything like that?
Now they had rooms, locker rooms, and when you come in, you could change clothes, and they give it was like sport lockers, it was long and 12 inches wide, and you gotta get a key, get your key, a lock, and lock it up, and then go walk up to the car that you were working on. I had all these cars lined up, and they had them numbered. So when the boss says, okay, you got to go to car 7 or 8, you got to install the door. So they have material handlers deliver the material to the car, and at that point on, I would work on the door until I install the door. Now, when I install the door, my boss says, well, you got to complete the door in 8 hours. So the first job I did, it took me a little more than 8 hours. And the second, though, I got real good at it. The second time, I completed the whole door. And then the boss used to say, well, that's good, you're doing good. And I had no complaints or anything like that. And then there's other guys working in the car, too. There was guys working on the floor, guys working on battens and things like that. And then when the cars come in, they install the seats. They come in and after they lay the floor down, and they put in the seats on top of the heater grills. And then from that point on, a little at a time, everybody had their operation. The guys would come in and put the handles on the cars and everything like that. And like I say, I liked it, and I worked every day. I did, I had no excuse. I didn't. I loved working there, and I was learning the good trade and everything like that. Same with my brother. We done the same thing.
Now, you for your lunch hour, did you have a special galvanized lunch pail? And how long did you have for lunch? What did you bring for lunch, and where did you eat your lunch?
Well, at 12 o'clock, the whistle would blow, and then I'd walk out of the car into an area right outside the car, and I would sit down on a crate or something like that and open up my lunchbox. And they had my lunchbox. I had a banana, and I had the kind of sandwich I made for that day. And then we worked till I ate my lunch till the whistle blew at 12:30. They give the whistle go 11:55, and that means that you gotta go over to the work area at 12 o'clock, 12:30 when the whistle blows the second time. And then, like I say, I ate my lunch, and they had machines, sweet rolled coffee, and different things like that, canned foods and all that. So, if you didn't bring a lunch, you could buy their lunch there.
Now, you mentioned that some of the guys installed battens. I'm not sure what a batten is or how you used it.
A batten is like a finished product that they put on the car to hide all the screw heads, all the screws that we install in first. And we used to countersink all the screws a lot of times. And then the batten goes on top. It was a finished part of the car in that area there, in that batten area. The batten is a long strip of metal that goes lengthwise to the car. And that would cover that would be the final trim to the car.
Now, you mentioned before about safety or accident stories. Can you tell me again about the story about the guy that had his finger hurt, and any other stories about safety or accidents?
Well, there was a big overhead crane, and they would when they pick up the cars, they pick up the cars and go down the line above the cars, and they had the hook on. They call a hook on man. They would hook on the cars at the end of one end. One guy was on the one end, and the other guy was on the other end, and they would blow the whistle, and that means that you had to get out of the car that you're working in and get out until the crane passes over your head, over the car that you're working on. And then they placed the car to a different area for different operations as it was going down the line.
Now, did they sort of insist that you wear safety gears, like to cover your eyes, or a hard hat, or steel-toed boots? Was there any of those kind of requirements back then?
Well, when I first started working there, they didn't. They told you to work safety shoes, steel toes, and then the safety glasses. And then after about a year or so, the insurance company told the company you gotta have plastic helmets. Everybody has to wear a helmet because there's some injuries with the head, bumping their heads or something. So.
Now, do you think that the workers got along all together? Did you get along with the fellow workers that you worked with?
Yeah, I got along with everybody. You know, you talk to experienced guy, and you tell him, well, I got this problem with the drill bits or the drill motor. He says, well, go to the tool crib and turn it back in and get another one. So that's what I did. And then we all got along good. You know, everybody worked good, and everybody helped each other out. You know. And the supervisors were good too. They watch you, and they made every operation that takes 8 hours. Sometimes we do it in 7 hours and 7.5 hours. So we had a half hour just to cool it a little bit, you know, just to go. Just they know that this every operation takes certain many hours. So we would keep it in that area. We didn't overdo it because if we overfinish the product, and then they would sit there and do nothing or go to a different operation, and I didn't want that. And the supervisor told me just keep it on limit hours on each operation.
Now, why did you stop? Why did you stop working for Pullman, and what year was it? Why did you stop working for Pullman, and what year did you stop working in Pullman?
Well, in 19 Amtrak, they got a contract for Amtrak cars, and you know, after 15 years working in the cars, hanging doors and everything like that, I got tired of it. I got tired because they were always rushing. So I put an application for maintenance carpenter. So they transferred me over to a different part of the company department and all that. And I got a little pay cut, but I wasn't worried about that because I like what I was doing, you know, and working on the whole plant, the roofs, the windows, the doors, any kind of maintenance to the factory. He's installing machinery and things like that. And in the maintenance department, we had a pipe fitter, we had millwright, and we had millwrights they work with this machinery, welding, and everything like that. And they had a plumber department, and when they have any problem with the air or anything like the airlines, they call a plumber, and then they in the same department, in the maintenance department. And we go in that area and we repair the problem.
What year did you stop working at Pullman, and why did you stop working at Pullman?
Well, in 1980, in 1979, in 70, 76, 77, we got notice from the union president says, well, we're run out of Pullman is not going to work build no more cars. We're going to finish up this contract, and that was it. So they said in 1981 it'll be their last time to work. So I worked till 81, and my president of my union told me the employment office offered me my choice. Should I work when I was entitled to? I had over 20 years service there, 22 years, and they told me that you want to take your pension when you're 65, or you could take it the next day. And my president of my union says, Al, take it the next day because you don't know how you're going to be living when you hit 65. So in 1981, I collected pension, not much, but I collected pension and the benefits with the pension.
Now, when you stopped working at the Pullman Company in 1982, did you get a chance to walk around the plant or any of the area and see it one last time?
I got laid off. I got laid off, and then my experience of working on cars and building experience and all that, I would work on side jobs outside the car, outside the factory.
Now, when you ended working at Pullman, did you get a chance to look around and sort of see the factory one last time? And did you feel sad at all that you were leaving this because it was such a big part of your life?
Because every time they had a layoff, every department would get laid off. In other words, fabrication would be the first people would be laid off because there were no more contracts and they didn't have no material to work on. So the fabrication was the first department. Well, I wasn't working at the time. Place closed in fabrication. I was working as a carpenter in a building maintenance. For the last 5 years, I worked there. Through my boss and everything like that, they says, okay, we're gonna have to strip some of these buildings and the offices and everything like that, the file cabinets and everything. So my partner and I went to each office, the engineer's office, the blueprints office, and everything like that. He says, take all the steel cabinets and put it on the aisle because the garbage man come with a long train, garbage train, and they would just dump all the stuff in the garbage in metal containers. So I says, well. My partner and I said, well, we'll see what's, out of curiosity, what was in the cabinet. They had blueprints, antique blueprints. And I said to myself, I live in Pullman. I was born in Pullman. I said, I think this will be very good to have as artifacts of Pullman. So I asked my supervisor, yeah, take it because we're going to dump them anyways. So that's the reason where I got these blueprints.
Now, when tourists come to visit the national park now and they look at these buildings, they're going to think about the stories of the men and women that worked in there. Is it important that we sort of interview you and other people like you? And what is it that you want to let people know about what it was like to be a worker at the Pullman Company?
Well, Pullman had a history of every time they had a contract, they complete the contract, and there was a layoff time, and they would, like a electrician or something like that, get laid off because there was no more contract and there was no working on it. There was no cars, so they had a choice of getting laid off, and that was it. But my brother and I, we signed a contract saying that any available job that's open in Pullman, we want it. We want to hire us because we loved working at Pullman. And so when they had like a snowstorm or they had building maintenance, building repairs and all that, then they would call us. It'd be a lower paying job, but it was good. I loved it.
Why is it important to remember stories like this for future generations?
Well, it's important for them to remember that Pullman had a history of laying off. Pullman had everybody had a title of their operations, and they were everybody when your operation is over, then they would lay you off. So, like I say, we signed a contract saying that we'll take any job that's opening in the company. According to the pay rate, we'd get a pay cut. So that's all right. So when they had laid off, there was hardly anybody working in this plant, but they need to upgrade the building, material and things like that. So that my brother and I, and we were like a laborer, you know. We were fixing things and locker rooms and stuff like that. It was building trades, and that was it.
Is it important to remember worker stories like this?
It's important to remember all these stories because that's how it was at that time. Now there's people that get hired and they said, well, I'm an electrician. I'm not going to take any other job but an electrician job. So they wouldn't call him until his department opens up for electrician or plumbers or anything like that. But my brother and I, we signed that contract saying that we'll accept any job that's open, you know. And
does it make you proud that people want to remember your experience and your brother's experience at Pullman? Does that make you proud?
Oh man, we loved it. My brother and I, we loved it. We didn't miss a day in going to work. You know, we would get to work 15 minutes or a half hour before we start working. I know it was walking distance. It took us about 15 minutes to walk from our house to Building 100. That's where we worked in, Building 100.
All right, very good, Deb. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.